begs the question then, Bill, if he's been working so diligently on this, why?
5 years after the mysterious symptoms that have come to be known as Havana syndrome first appeared, the number of cases is escalating, with now more than 200 reported cases around the world. Years after the mysterious symptoms that have come to be known as Havana syndrome first appeared, the number of cases is escalating, with now more than 200 reported cases around the world, mostly targeting U.S. diplomats and spies. Recently in Bogota, Colombia, according to reports, where Secretary of State Clinton is scheduled to visit Haiti. Days ago, President Biden signed legislation compensating the victims, but bipartisan members of the House and Senate are still concerned that not enough is being done. The cause remains a mystery, but the leading theory is some form of directed energy, perhaps microwave. NBC News has been told perhaps first used to spy on U.S. embassies, but now being used as a weapon by one or more hostile countries. Out of concern for their colleagues, for the first time, 3 of the original Havana victims are speaking out on television, describing the painful symptoms that have caused brain damage in some instances and have cut short many promising careers.
Just play it for you so you can hear.
It was a lot worse earlier. It was persistent, kind of at the same level all the time. Very, very loud. It's nothing you could sit with.
Kate, did anyone else in your neighborhood have this experience at their homes?
Yeah, on our right was another embassy family, and then the people on our left and across the street from us were both Canadian embassy employees, and in the end, all 4 households were diagnosed.
Kate's husband and Doug Ferguson describing what they experienced in Havana. He is now based in Paris. She is no longer in the diplomatic service because of her medical conditions. The State Department tells us that they're now having employees who go overseas take medical tests on a voluntary basis so they can
Or that's a code for you're blacklisted now. Something like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just
but
like...
how do they... I don't see how they can say spies. Diplomats and spies.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this shit just didn't make sense. Like, now somebody did something to them or they stepped down or something. I don't know.
And then it's affected a couple of 100 people. But how if it's around the world, why are you calling it Havana syndrome? Because that's the first reported cases of it or something?
I guess so.
To create a baseline in case they suffer symptoms. The studies include vestibular, ocular, cognitive, neurological, and auditory tests.
Even the reporting stuff. And then you're like, I didn't do this.
I'm just reading this shit, man.
Surprise! Bizarre. Kamala Harris is still not taking the crisis seriously. The vice president is skipping a big meeting in Mexico with Secretaries Mayorkas and Blinken. Instead, on Friday, she was in New Jersey, visiting a daycare center. And then she stopped by a bakery, and she also had time to film this little gem, this space video for kids, which critics are calling cringeworthy.
I just love the idea of exploring the unknown. You're gonna literally see the craters on the moon with your own eyes. I want you to really remember this. Never let anybody tell you who you are. You tell them who you are. Got that? Yes. All right. I got more advice, usually.
Craig.
She's like a cheerleader on Soul Simon. You know, it's like this weird bubbly, but you don't know why. And I like the fact that she is more with children than I am, right? She should take a page out of my book. Don't interact with brats. They ask you to do this. Don't do it. It makes you look bad. But remember, she is fake. I mean, she's super fake. Remember, she was one that called Joe Biden the worst thing you could ever call somebody these days, which is racist. And when she was asked about it again when she became VP, she was like laughing. She just laughed. That was a debate. I mean, calling somebody a racist, knowing it's not true, that's pretty bad. And I understand why they have her talk about the moon if they want.
If you call him racist because you think he's racist and you still went underneath him, you're stupid.
You didn't remember when she said that?
I can't even keep up, yo.
Do
you remember that there's been so much shit from Obama to Trump, back to Biden, killer wasp, COVID-19, school shooters.
That's why
Like,
none
there's
of this shit
literally.
don't make sense with them being together. Yo, like you debate, like that's.
I mean, of course, she's gonna attack everybody. She was throwing low blows, but that's the thing. Like, bitch, you're not shit and you're nobody.
Yo, son.
Like,
So
I
once
don't
again,
give a fuck that you're a woman or that you're
Do
black.
you think
would
he
knock my
racist or not?
shoulders.
So you're a liar. So he's a racist and you're a fucking liar.
That's what I'm saying. Like, alright, if he's a racist, then what are you for supporting him? And if he's not a racist, then you just smeared his name and made yourself look bad. And he clearly worked with Obama. Not to say that he can't be racist. I don't know whether he's racist or not. But the fact that he said you ain't black if you don't vote for me, dude.
As far away from any other kind of practical issues, like get her to the moon.
Next week she'll be on the Blue Origins with William Shatner.
She should be.
But so they get her away from what she's supposed to be responsible for, and that's the border crisis. But then they do this. Give us some. Give me the dope on.
I don't know.
Dope.
I don't know what's happening. I don't understand it. I really think that her instincts seem to be really off because if you followed her Senate career, she never actually passed a bill, but she showed up at every press conference to talk about the bills and passed. And the root causes of the immigration debacle are not going to be solved within this administration where she could go on and give a press release. If you remember when she had the gaffe where she laughed about going to the border, the next day it was when President Biden said, well, now you're in charge of the border. And then about 5 days later, they're like, actually, no, just the root causes of the border. So here's this person who achieved an incredible accomplishment. She is the first woman vice president in our country. It's an amazing accomplishment. It comes with a lot of power and a lot of prestige, and she doesn't use any of it, and it drives me crazy. If I were in her position, I never would have let those three guys go down to Mexico without me. I would have, actually, you can fly an Air Force 2 with me, and you can brief me along the way, and then we'll walk in there together as a team, and I will be the one that is speaking at it. You know, I would take charge of it. Instead, it's perfectly fine to talk about space with kids. It's great, but if you think about the enormity of the power that she has and the capacity and the capabilities that should come with that office, she's not utilizing it. It drives me nuts.
At least she didn't sniff the kid's hair. That, I think, we can be thankful for. And she doesn't love people that explore the unknown. She's anti-Columbus. That's the best explorer of the unknown I've ever seen. There's two scenarios going on. One, she had the immigration thing removed from her portfolio because the last time she went down there, she brought nothing back, and then border crossings exploded. Or she herself removed immigration from her own portfolio, and now Joe Biden is sending pretty much the whole cabinet down. But Biden's running out of time. He can't just keep sending everybody down south to deal with immigration. Eventually it comes to Joe. Joe's never been to the border. It's only been, 9 months, and he's already deputized 5 people to go fix this problem. He's at 28% approval on the border. He's going to have to do something, executive action or administratively, to repel people from crossing into this country instead of absorbing them.
You know how I know that this is a big problem? Because Hillary Clinton came out, I think it was today, and said she will never be out of the game of politics. So she sees President stumble busts, and then Kamala Harris, maybe she says she's not going to run for anything, but we know that might not be true.
I've said before, I think Secretary Mayorkas is probably a good guy, but he is not a man you want when a crisis is underway. I would think differently about that, and maybe she's best not to be on that plane. 2, the Democrats need to give the wall. Build the wall. Republicans, invest in the hemisphere. Democrats, it's important that we send more judges and Democrats, Republicans, like more judges to these asylum courts to expedite this stuff at the border. And Republicans, let's get a Dreamers bill. And 5, that's the only way we get to a path to citizenship, which is what you guys tried to get to under President Bush. President Biden doesn't seem to have a policy. To your point, does come back to him. As much as I want to blame some of the others as personnel, if you don't have a policy for them to execute, it's hard to fully blame them as to how they're managing this. We need a policy here. If not, the polling data shows this border crisis and the Afghan botch is a huge part of why these numbers are where they are. The 2022 elections and the 2024 election will depend a lot on how we handle this going forward. Say my name again.
But that's the thing
She
too,
will
though.
be
Like
remembered, though.
nobody wants to agree with any policy because Trump was like, "All right, y'all got a fucking problem with the border. Everybody cries about the border, the border, border. Build a fucking wall, yo. Let's build a fucking wall. It'll be the biggest, most beautiful wall you've ever seen." And nobody's like, "Oh, fuck that. We're not building a wall." But then now you're still crying about the fucking border crisis. So the next time.
Now we're just spending money for a wall and it's not being built.
And so what do you expect this guy to do? Come up with some elaborate genius plan for border reform, and then what? You probably reject that shit too. And then the next president, what are you supposed to do in the first 2 years? Just like,
When do people realize?
They don't want that shit fixed, yo. And Trump and Camilla ain't gonna do shit.
I need all of y'all motherfuckers to act. You on the blue team, you on the red team. Mix this shit up, make it spicy. Squid Games, let's go.
Hard to believe, but border restrictions have been in place now for the past 19 months.
Really has been a long time. Really hard on some families. Soon that is finally going to change, only for vaccinated people, though. Rob Maloney live border tonight with a new timeline for opening it back up. Ron?
Well, it's going to be very soon. And, on a gorgeous 70-degree October day, Canada looks almost so close you can touch it. I mean, frankly, it's only about couple of thousand yards away. And yet, it might as well be 1,000 miles away for those Canadians who want to come to this country. They haven't been able to do it for months now.
It's been heartbreaking.
Dual American-Canadian citizen Derek Cookson lives in Royal Oak. His parents and his brother live just the other side of Windsor. These are recent pictures of the family. They weren't able to see each other up until last August. Incredibly strict rules installed then allowed Derek to go to Canada to see his family, but they're still awaiting the border to open for them the other way. Come early November, it all changes, and Derek says he and his entire family are thrilled.
It's definitely nice timing because it's right before the holidays. I didn't want to have to worry about whether we're, where we're going to have to go. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'd love for them to come over here and be
I'm a dual Canadian American nigga. I can live in Canada.
Of course, families getting to see each other is nice, but there is a lot of business that's not happened at the nation's busiest border crossing. They used to do $200 million a day,
nigga.
but now only essential items like auto parts and perishable food moves through. It's going to make a big difference, says Canada and U.S. Business Association President Mark High.
Especially Windsor was built as a suburb of Detroit and built on free access back and forth. A lot of suppliers over there, not to mention families, tourists, shopping, Tigers fans, all have been prevented from coming over for a very long time.
So very much to look forward to, although Derek is deeply concerned that what he's seen at the border in the most recent times being exceptionally difficult to get across. He says he hopes they don't do that in the other direction. In other words, what he's saying is he'd like to make sure that they're not just checking boxes for bureaucrats, that they'll actually follow the science and allow people to go through. You have to be vaccinated to get over the bridge.
So, Rob, what are you hearing
There
from
you go.
Michigan's leadership about the crossing?
Restriction of movement.
Unanimous excitement. The governor put out a press release today. Debbie Dingell, the congresswoman, also put out a statement. I'll say that they've been working very hard to try and get Washington and Canada to go ahead and do this. They're thrilled because
I know.
it means
What if she
business
married?
and more people getting things
What if she
done,
married
getting
Mr.
things,
Dingle?
Back to normal as best they can.
So many families
That's
and businesses
crazy.
waiting for this day. All
You
right,
really
thank
love
Rob.
this dude, yo. You took his name.
You could
Oh my
write about
God.
that email you just sent with
That's like on Married with Children. The one neighbor name was Marcy, and then she married the dude, and his last name was Darcy.
It's hard to believe, but
Marcy Darcy.
Listen,
Like what the fuck?
my personal opinion, I've always wanted to get rid of my last name for as long as I can remember. But if I had a real cool last name, I just have to be like, look, this is what it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't changing that shit.